playstyle ng Chrono Odyssey. Kaya nakakapagtaka lang, boss. Ang dami niyang ang daming bashing na natatanggap ng Chrono Odyssey. Hindi ko alam kung nag-hate lang ba sila o ito talaga yung tingin nila.
Coolest trailers I've seen for an MMO in years. Sure, the game is being published by Korean developers
Ang ganda, na ito yun.
who have a pretty shaky track record regarding monetization and game quality, but this time, the trailer looks so good that I might be able to put aside my previous biases and actually enjoy this game anyway. I mean, it can't be any
Ganda.
worse than Lost Ark or BDO or Bless Online or Blade and Soul or Throne and Liberty, right? Right? Well, folks, if you wanted a game that utilizes New World's user interface and weapon system, but in a less functioning and poor manner while not being able to enter obviously open spaces with your ridiculous-looking Unreal Engine 5 slop character creation, this is the
Ano yan?
for you. Or maybe you wanted to struggle to find where your quest marker was actually telling you to go, along with a bunch of other players who are also clearly confused, only to come to the realization that you can participate in non-consensual open-world PvP by throwing explosives at each other, then once again, this game is for you. Or maybe you just wanted slow, janky, and awful-feeling movement with laggy animations in a world where the lighting needs to come with a seizure warning, and promises such as seamless open world made you literally...
Pero ano pa to beta pa lang naman to Masyado pang maaga para sabihin na tapangit talaga yung game. Beta pa lang to, guys. Maayos pa to.
Seamless. Yeah, Chrono Odyssey. I suffered through this game's beta testing, so you don't have to. If you appreciate my sacrifice to the MMO gods,
Parang video ba?
appreciate a like on the video. And you can even comment telling me how much of a complete idiot I was for letting myself feel even the slightest bit of hype towards this complete dumpster fire. Now, let's get into it. So, upon entering the game, you're met with a bunch of cutscenes that we've already seen from previous trailers that were released for the game. In fact, a ton, even most of the cutscenes that I interacted with were actually scenes that they had shared in the game's trailers that have been released upwards of 2 years ago. The server select screen looks pretty cool, and I have
daming
some
server.
props. The game's aesthetic
Pucha, daming server agad.
is really where Chrono Odyssey shines. The actual art direction is super
Aba,
compelling.
siguro sa release nito, isa-isang re-release yung
But now,
server.
into character creation. You're first asked to choose between 6 different classes. Oh wait, 3 different classes, because the other 3 are still locked. That's fine. I'm not making this video to bash on a game that's still in beta testing. Having certain features locked is totally okay, and I can understand that. Anyway, each class has the opportunity to use 3 different weapons, and 2 of those at the same time. I chose to be the swordsman, who can use a great sword,
Gender lock siya, no?
shield, and dual blades. And now we get into actual character customization. And I was kind of confused when I first saw this, because prior I had seen a ton of creators actually praising the character creation as if it's the best part of the game. And while it functions, certainly, it also just feels
Okay
like
naman.
every other Unreal Engine 5 character creator that we've seen this year. You have a ton of presets on the side with a black nondescript background, and you can hyper zoom in and highly focus on your character's face. This is just an exact copy of every other UE5 game's character creator that was released in 2025, with a bit
Chrono
of the
Odyssey.
typical Korean character creator aesthetic thrown in. Within minutes after adjusting sliders, I had created one of those Bored Ape NFTs. You can find my Bitcoin wallet in the description if you would like to purchase my non-fungible property. But really, after messing with my character's proportions to the point that he had tumors coming out of every part of his abdomen, which made armor look exceptionally ridiculous, I decided to take this game a bit more serious. After all, I've been hyped for literally years at this point. So I chose one of the default options and finally entered the game. You're met with a cutscene showing a conversation between Kaya and Balder. The graphics in the cutscenes are really nicely done, but as soon as it transitions to the actual game, the curtain is peeled back, as you're shown an extremely grainy world
Pati yung armor humulma rin
with running and attack animations that are reminiscent of every Eastern-made slop MMO designed to steal your money. Now,
Parang ang gulo, no? Nakita niyo yun? Parang ang gulo na lang nangyayari. Kung gantong kadilim yung PvP, parang ang hirap mag-PvP. Parang anonymous. Sino to? Parang masyadong madilim mo. Ilan yung kalaban dito? Pag may HP, siguro. Pag may HP, siguro.
that are reminiscent of every Eastern-made slop MMO designed to steal your money. Now, everyone is saying that this game is basically New World, but worse. And I can understand why. I mean, look at the user interface. They basically copied New World with this sort of minimalist
Para siyang para siyang single player, pre. Mas mukha siyang single player.
style. And I mean, even the color theme of your quest objectives, the compass at the top, and the action bar are all pretty similar to New World. However, I think New World is so far ahead of Chrono Odyssey in terms of quality that it's quite literally comparing apples to oranges. Just a few months ago, I played another Korean game on my channel
Bless.
called Bless Unleashed, where I went through a very similar character creation process, and the overall feel of Bless Unleashed, from animations to combat, was much more similar in my opinion. Just as a heads up, Bless Unleashed these days boasts a whopping 438 daily player peak.
Ito ba yung sinasabi nyo kapag nakapag-play to earn yung MMO, mabilis mamatay yung game? Kailan na-release to? Kailan na-release to? 438 yung peak? Server lang namin to eh.
On Steam charts, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if
204 pa lang yan eh.
follows a very similar fate, unless drastic changes are made. Anyway, in the tutorial, you're basically this high-level version of your character. You have access to all your abilities and a mount, which feels okay, I guess. It's not great, but it has no weight to it.
Hindi na kasagad graphics niya, Dodge. May issue na yung uploader na yan, na ang hilig man lahit ng laro di in terms of graphics. Tapos di naman kaya ng PC niya yung mga laro na isagad ang settings. Ano kasi boss eh, ako kasi boss, naniniwala ako na quality ng game over effects ng game. Kasi ano eh, kumbaga, ang ano kasi ng mga tao ngayon, yung bulag na tinitignan ng mga tao ngayon, pag maganda yung effects ng skill, equal sa kanila magandang laro. Pero pansinin nyo yung may magagandang effects na skill, yung sobrang gaganda, sobrang iilaw. Sila yung sobrang daming AoE and sobrang nakakairita laruin dahil sobrang bilis pumatay tapos sobrang sakit sa mata. Siguro ngayon tulad ng World of Warcraft, simple lang laruin, simple lang yung graphics. Pero maraming player. Ayun kasi yung sinasabi ng mga tao eh, yun yung huli ko napansin na yung comment about doon sa Odin, mas maganda daw ang Odin kasi mas mailaw daw yung mga skill. Sa una. Pero hindi kasi araw-araw ka mapapawaw ng magagandang skill eh. Eventually, darating yung time na yung magagandang skill na yon magiging mukhang normal na lang sa'yo.
But it is functional. And you continue to run from cutscene to cutscene, taking out these flares. At this point, I decided to take a look at some of my available menus.
Oo, gameplay talaga pre.
Skills tab where you can level up and learn new abilities for each weapon type.
Gameplay tsaka yung yung feels mo habang nilalaro mo yung game na nakakairita ba yung mga whaler, sinasaglit ka ba ng mga whaler? Kasi pag sinasaglit ng whaler lahat ng F2P, yung mga F2P hindi nila kayang tiisin na ay maganda naman yung effects kahit nawawanit ako ng whaler, kaya ko tong tiisin. Hindi mo kayang hindi mo kayang ipagpalit yung experience mo para lang sa maiilaw na skill eh.
That your character could use. You have a page showing your Chrono Tector, which is one of the only unique parts about this game, where you have 5 different powers that I guess you can level up and use, all having to do something with bending time. And furthermore, more interface and menus that are all basically uninspired and copied from other games of the same type. Anyway, this tutorial culminates in a boss fight with the guy we saw over and over.
Pero alam ko maganda yung boss fight eh. Ang pinaka nito highlight. Ang gaganda daw talaga ng boss fight. Yun ang pinaka parang bentahin nitong game. Ang problema mo naman sa boss fight, what if naharang ka na nung boss fight? For example, hindi mo na kaya. Tapos mo na lahat ng boss fight na kaya mo. Then yung next na boss fight, hindi mo kaya nang hindi ka tumatalpak. Paano mo pa isa-satisfy yung sarili mo kung yung reason mo kung bakit ka nagandahan dito is yung boss fight? Eh wala ka na nga ma-boss fight eh. Mapa-paywall ka na eh.
They've tried to make it a sort of Souls-like combat where if you get hit without dodging or blocking, it's pretty drastic. And the boss has a seemingly impossibly large pool of health. Luckily, in this fight, you have an NPC helping you, which takes up most of the boss's attention. However, I still managed to die. But it doesn't matter because afterwards, you're getting teleported to the main game anyway. This chick shows up with her pocket watch and resets time, and would you believe it? You went back to the past before all this happened.
Whoa.
And you're level 1. Who could have guessed that in a game about bending time, they would use one of the most stereotypical back-to-the-future-ass narrative directions in order to familiarize yourself with the game by giving you a high-level version of the character you're about to play? Wow, I'm impressed. Anyway, you're loaded into this creepy cave, and once again, one
Ay,
of the
check ko mamaya,
things I
boss.
need to be able to applaud this game for is
Ilan
its
nga?
aesthetic.
Check ko mamaya.
I'll give them that. Everything looks relatively badass. However, this cave as an introduction to the actual game is hilarious because it basically immediately highlights how awful and janky the movement really is. By forcing you to climb upwards over a bunch of awkward rocky outcrops as you make your way outside. Your character's feet seemingly never make contact with anything he's touching, especially when it involves moving upwards or facing any sort of verticality.
Parang Elden Ring. Parang Elden Ring yung boss fight. O, parang nga siyang single player.
Line up with what your character should be doing and how he's moving. And honestly, it feels like
Sa akin sa lahat ng laro, the best pa rin pantanggal ng umay Black Desert Online. Yan, isa sa mga may ilaw na skill yan eh. Ano talaga eh. O, ano yun? Ubaga boss. Kanya-kanya talaga. Kung nagagandahan ka doon, syempre, yun ang taste mo eh. Hindi tayo pwedeng magandahan lahat sa iisang bagay. So kung maganda sa iyo yun, syempre, hindi naman kami dito para sabihin na, hindi maganda yan boss, Crits. Huwag mo laruin yan. Normal lang yun guys. Meron kayong magugustuhan na hindi gusto ng ibang tao. And meron silang magugustuhan na hindi nyo gusto.
Game at times regarding the movement.
May combo system nga dyan.
You press E to interact and you're given some health potions that you can equip to a quick use slot. I continued forward fighting some of these leftover flares, and I talked to the first guy who told me to keep continuing forward. And I even found Jimmy Kimmel. I did not know he was a fan of Korean MMOs. Now, I tried talking, which puts a message into the world chat, but there's no indication or...
Tulad ng Mir 4. Mir 4, buhay na buhay yung Mir 4, di ba? Hanggang ngayon, yung Mir 4 talagang ang bumali doon sa sa kasabihan na kapag ang game NFT, play to earn, ilang linggo lang or ilang buwan lang yung tatagal. Swerte na pag tumagal ng buwan. Tingnan mo, dahil pa naglalaro ng Mir 4 ngayon. Mas marami pa doon sa pinakita niyang laro kanina. Dahil pa rin player niyan eh.
Head, so it's hard to tell when people are actually talking to.
De, okay sana ang Ragnarok, pre. Sa totoo lang okay ang Ragnarok. Ang problema sa Ragnarok, anong Ragnarok? Kasi ang Ragnarok na lumalabas taon-taon, 7 to 8 na Ragnarok, 7 to 10 na Ragnarok ang lumalabas taon-taon eh. Anong Ragnarok ang maganda?
Continued forward and you can use left control to sprint, which is kind of awkward on the hand. I continued forward, kind of lagging into every
yung old Ragnar.
The game claims to be a seamless open world, but these small loading screens that I was interacting with were way too obvious. Next up, you meet up with Kaya, who tells you to search in the chest for some armor, and this is the first time that I realized that pressing E to interact doesn't always work. Sometimes, no, most times, I had to press E upwards of 4 times for my character to actually interact with...
Bagi pa kasi ngayon yan eh.
Anyway, with my new armor equipped, I followed my quest beam of light forward to this Eye of Insight. These obviously act as your fast travel locations, and every single one opens up a new part of the map. Unfortunately, whatever this cool animation was supposed to look like, I'll never know, as every time I interacted with one of these, it basically froze my screen until the animation was over. So I jumped down and made my way towards the coastal outpost, where you're given some new weapons. You get 3 types, but once again, you can only have 2 equipped. I decided to check out and use the dual blades, as they sounded pretty cool. I went back outside and fought some flares, which got my dual blades to mastery level 2, where you can apply a skill point and learn new abilities.
Typical na dual
Before
blade
the game
eh.
sends you on another path up a weirdly obscure vertical area that showcases just how bad the character's movement is. Seriously, what is their obsession with forcing you to climb up the most non-obvious locations in a way that just perfectly shows off how janky everything really is? I guess this is how the game introduces you to your Chrono Tector, which you can use by pressing C. This highlights the bright yellow path that you've been following the entire game, except for this exact moment when it's hidden, and you
Walang
have to use
auto?
the Chrono Tector to see it. Now,
Pucha,
so far,
walang
I've had a lot of
auto?
praise for the
Walang auto pala. Tamad pa naman ako magganyan.
cutscenes. They've honestly looked pretty amazing. However, this one in particular was hilarious. This oddly proportioned hand stood out like a sore thumb. Literally, this is probably what my hand is going to look like after having to hold left control to sprint everywhere. Anyway, after this land is cleared of the threats, everything is sunny and peaceful again, and I decided to test and see if the game could match my mood and I could end it all. However, even that, they couldn't get just right. I took a measly 500 damage and continued forward. However, due to the fact that there is seemingly very little to no health regeneration, some undead pirate...
Ako tinatamad na talaga ako ng game na walang auto-patting. Kasi ganun din naman eh. Ano ba yun? Extra na nakaka-thrill ba yun kapag nahihirapan kang hanapin kung saan ka pupunta? Diba pwede naman na i-click mo na lang yung pupuntahan mo tapos panoorin mo na lang. Eh kung may makita kang kalaban or importanteng bagay habang papunta mo doon, edi banatan mo. Kasi sinasabi nila, meron daw kasi minsan mga side na pwede mong gawin during papunta sa next spot. Pwede mo naman gawin yun habang pinapanood yung auto-patting eh.
Took me out in basically one hit. And that's death in Chrono Odyssey. This was actually beneficial for me as it basically teleported me directly where I needed to go, so the speedrunning strat's already getting chalked up. I'm not gonna lie, at this point I was already getting pretty much fed up. I really had much higher expectations for Chrono Odyssey and everything I had witnessed so far.
Ang unfair nito sa Chrono Odyssey, pre. Sinasabi niya na maraming bug. Ano pa lang kasi boss, beta pa lang eh. Expect mo na yung bug eh. Unfair sa Chrono Odyssey to eh.
Was janky, confusing, copied, and contrived. Put it this way, if you thought that Throne and Liberty was a poorly made Korean slop MMO, well, Chrono Odyssey is the exact same, but about 5 times worse. As I made my way closer to the first real town, which just looks exactly like the outpost that I had visited prior, the lighting started shifting and doing that thing where the game is trying to transition you from slightly lower lighting to more. And in between, you have to experience a full-on
Gagong sakit sa mata.
control by moving your camera in different directions. After that, I was directed to participate in some crafting,
Baka sa PC niya yun.
and the game sends you to a blacksmith who gives you all the necessary ingredients, and you use the weapon crafter. And you spend 500 gold to make some daggers. I'm pretty sure there's much more to this system, and it's probably a pretty in-depth part to gear progression within the endgame. However, the game thinks you've had enough of...
Ang alam ko hindi rin to hindi rin siya multi-platform. Hindi mo siya pwedeng laruin pala sa cellphone. Alam ko PC lang to eh. So, yung walang auto boss, pantambay lang yun. Yung walang trabaho, nakaharap lang sa... Hindi, mas madali lang kasi talaga, pre. Mas madaling laruin. Kasi may stress ka pa ba magpunta-punta sa kabilang location?
crafting, and it sends you on your way to continue forward with the main quest anyway. There was also no mention of gathering either, so the blacksmith just gave you all the ingredients to make your weapon without explaining where they actually might have come from. Anyway, you're sent off to find out about a cave. I came across this glowing shining orb known as a vault, but when I tried to enter it, it said this content is not available in the playtest. That's fair enough, but how do I get to this cave? You see, your compass doesn't actually indicate verticality in any way, so you can be on top of your quest marker, but still not in the right location. This is normally fine in the vast majority of games that I play. However, this starting area for Chrono Odyssey is literally riddled with different levels of verticality. You have ravines and waterfalls and mountains that are constantly acting as blockers towards where you actually need to go. But after a few moments of running around aimlessly, I did eventually decide to try and hop down to the bottom of the Along my way down, I actually found a chest which had some items and some new boots inside, so that was cool. And eventually, I made it to the cave where you find something known as a chrono gate. For some reason, this loading screen took an exceptionally long time for me. I want to say upwards of like 45 seconds before...
Baka sa PC niya talaga yung problema. 45 seconds yung loading screen. Tingnan naman hindi sa lahat ganun.
Loading into a pretty small area. My quest tracker indicated that I needed to fight the 1,000-fold piercer, which didn't seem to be spawning in. But
parang ang bitter ng ano niya masyado.
Then I realized that this wall is actually a giant door.
Parang lahat ng nangyayari sa screen niya kasalanan ng Odyssey. Mali mo sa PC niya.
Animation. So I made my way forward before seeing yet again another cutscene.
Ayun nga lang.
Hype content. And does every boss just look like this? So far, that seemed to be the case. Anyway, I tried fighting this 1,000-fold piercer. I managed to do some damage, but yeah. Then I died. So I tried again and I died again. The dude can literally take out most of your HP in one hit if you miss a dodge or a block. I'm sure I could have taken him down given enough time and effort, but this was definitely not an easy fight. Especially for people who might be new to your game or Souls-like games in general, I don't see the average new player
Souls-like ba siya? Ayo, parang skill issue yan.
Quest, like it's what I was supposed to be working on. But I decided to leave the instance just in case, and I guess it wasn't my main quest, and it wasn't what I was supposed to be working on, as I once again had a beam of light leading me into a different direction. And I guess at this point, I got to level 4. So I followed this beam of light to a bound stone, which I guess acts as a place you can respawn and also as another fast travel location. I was told to use the bound
stone. Yan ang maganda, mayroong quick travel.
I wasn't quite sure where the citadel was on the map, but then I saw it.
Okay nga yan, average player, mga ganyan lang ng PC at galawan. Kaso ang problema kasi, sabihin nga natin, kaya ako pinipilit kong itaas yung settings ng ng game or ng graphics ko pag nagla-live. Kasi baka sumama yung tingin nila, baka isipin ng mga bagong viewer na ganito talaga itsura ng nilalaro kong game. Kaya pinipilit kong itaas yung kaya minsan naglalag. Kaya yun lang ang problema ng PC ko rin. Naglalag. Pero pinipilit ko na maganda yung pinapanood nyo. Kahit sa kulay.
Enter the citadel. Gotcha. Upon entering the citadel, you're met with more cutscenes and Velia tells you to go to the Chrono Gate. I explored a bit around the citadel, which honestly looks nothing like...
Kasi yung gantong itsura parang PS1 to eh. Kung nakapaglaro kayo ng Devil May Cry. Gantong kalamya na kulay. Para siyang Devil May Cry. Hindi man yun lang inayos yung yung saturation, pwede yun eh. Pwede mong ayusin bahagya yun. Tataas mo yung brightness o haba mo ng konti para medyo hindi masyadong malamya. Ang lamya masyado. Parang Devil May Cry.
Citadel, and basically, it's just Chrono Odyssey's version of the Magnus from BDO. Okay. Anyway, leaving the Citadel and following my quest marker led me to this house that had a blue glowing barrel outside of it, which I was able to interact with by pressing E about 4 times, and my character picked up the barrel. It seems like you can actually aim and throw the barrel and...
Bug. Pwede mo pang trip to
then I
eh.
respawned and followed my quest marker again, and interestingly, it led me back directly to that same house. Now, you can't actually go inside this house. There's an invisible wall that prevents you from entering this obviously open space. I even got on the roof and tried to drop in, but no. And there seemed to be tons of other players around who had the same quest marker as me and were similarly confused. Anyway, I picked up the barrel again and I threw it, and did that just kill me and another player? Did I just participate in non-consensual open world PvP?
Magkakatoksikan dito sa area nito. Nakikinita ko na. Pag may mga player na pag may mga streamer dito na ito ang dito sila magtatagal.
PvP in a game that doesn't feature open world PvP, at least not in this area? Wait, we need to go back and see if that's what happened or if it was just a
Tignan ko, freaks.
Surely. Oh, yeah. Okay, I just killed another player with this barrel again. That's amazing. Oh boy. Next, I helped some naked man down off the waterfall in Chrono Odyssey's rendition of the waterfall quest from old school RuneScape before he creepily walked away from me and hid in a bush. And that's when I actually realized that my quest marker wasn't telling me to go to that house in the woods, it was directing me back to the Chrono Gate where I had fought that difficult boss. Because the Chrono Gate was so deep into the mountain from the side of the ravine, it appeared on the minimap as if it was above the mountain. That's why I got confused. So I went back to the Piercer guy just to have my ass
Nung mahirap Nung mahirap pag walang auto-patting. Nakakatamad yung parte na yun kapag naliligaw ka.
handed to me again, and that's when I decided enough was enough. I am so mad at myself for getting hyped up about this game. And these aren't just beta testing problems. This game obviously needs a ton of work, but I can already tell from my short
totoo.
that it's just another sloppy, Korean-made MMO that despite not being a cash grab just yet, probably will be within a few years. Don't play this game. Save yourself the time and the money. There's already a fully released version of Chrono Odyssey that's been out for years. It's called...
Talaga? Na-release na pala to dati, yung Chrono Odyssey? Ano to, i-re-release lang ulit nila? Bakit kaya nila i-re-release ulit? Pero yun, mukhang hindi nga maganda. Ang problema kasi dyan, maraming available na game eh. Tapos ganito pa yung mga review. Ang daming review about na ganito yung datingan eh.
Online. Anyway, if you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you. A like, a comment, a
wala, ganun na. Wala naman din eh.
If you really enjoyed the video,
Wala naman nadagdag eh.
becoming a channel member. But
Wala rin nadagdag eh. Matagal na pala tong Chrono Odyssey na to. Hindi man lang pumasok sa radar natin. So yun lang, hindi kagandahan pre.